stuff going on now. So we have Josh Ayzenberg and Blake Cox, and I'll turn it over to them and let them talk a little bit about themselves, and then they'll answer some questions and have a chat with Coach Brandon.
Ooh. Brandon, you wanted to say something?
Yeah, I'll go ahead and start. So, like Matt said, Coach Ayers, boys 16th national coach, a couple of my guys here on the call. Thank you guys for making it. Thanks to everybody who's on the call. Hope you guys are staying safe, staying active, getting some good touches in. What kind of player do you want to be when you step back on the court? Think about that every day, okay? You don't always need a court or a net to improve your games. A lot of things you guys can be doing at home to raise the level of your game. So get outside, get active, get some good touches in. So Blake and Josh, we'll go ahead and get started with it. Jump right into the first question. It's a nice, easy one. What drew you to the sport of volleyball, and at what age did you guys start playing?
I'll go first, Josh. So my path is not a typical one, I guess you could say. So I just basically need to play a fall sport coming into my freshman year. And my mom was like, why don't you try out for the volleyball team? And she drugged me to tryouts, and I just ended up playing and ended up falling in love with it. So pretty much simple as that, but definitely not your typical path. I didn't have anybody, coaching me at all, when I was little or anything that really inspired me. It was kind of like just be active, and then just kind of fell in love with the game.
Right on. So I am from not near you guys. I am from Long Beach, New York. As the name suggests, I live very close to a not very nice beach. And my dad and his friends were super into beach volleyball when I was growing up. So I just kind of always wanted to be around my dad and his buddies, and they were playing. And none of them were really great volleyball players, but they were trying their best, and they knew the basics. And I kind of started just peppering around my dad around 5 years old on the beach. And I was told I was going to be a pretty tall kid. So I thought, volleyball is a sweet sport. If you don't know, which I'm sure you don't, I'm 5'8", so I never grew really. But I fell in love with the game. I met so many amazing people on the beach. I got to play in like professional tournaments on the beach from the time I was like 13, 14 years old. So just kind of been playing ever since then, and still playing now.
Cool. Awesome. All right. So tell us a little bit about your journey. So from club ball to college, and then Josh, obviously touch on going from college ball over to playing professional ball.
Cool. I'll start this one. So where I'm from in New York, at the time there was only one club team. The club team was LWBC. We used to play your team all the time at East Coast. And it was pretty much, they took 10 kids from all of Long Island, which is a massive, massive area. And I was like, I'll go. I was like 5'5", and I was like, you know what, I'm going to set. So I tried out as a setter, and ended up making it, ended up being on a pretty solid team. And my club experience was pretty good. We traveled around. My 17th year, we ended up getting 5th place at nationals, which was like the best ever from East Coast team at the time, at least. And that kind of propelled me to be able to go play in college. I never got recruited like I thought at the time I should have gotten recruited. And this is something I like to talk about only because it feels like it touches home for a lot of people, that when I was playing, I heard nothing but praise from parents on our team, parents from other teams, coaches. And then when I kind of started to look out for college programs and things like that, I was really expecting to go to those big UCLA, USC, things like that. And I kind of just kept getting told I really wasn't good enough. I wasn't the player that they wanted. And that was super tough for me. I wasn't really getting much looks at all. I was actually thinking of going to play lacrosse in college because I had a better shot at that. And then I ended up kind of late in my senior year getting an email from Sacred Heart University, the coach at the time, and saying, hey, come out and come to college and come check it out and things like that. So I ended up loving the campus, liking the team a lot. I knew a couple of guys, and I decided that, it might not be a great Division I program where we went, but I can always be a part of making it better. And I can always try to leave something there that's special that maybe no one else has ever done. So then I guess moving forward, I was, playing Division I volleyball at Sacred Heart University, and it was great. For me, it was still such a big step up because coming from New York, the level's not so high, and I was still getting to play against some international players and guys who are 23 years old, and I'm 18, and I think I'm this awesome player, and I'm just getting lit up every single day. Everyone thinks they're good enough, and then you show up and you're not. You're playing against grown men, and it was a wake-up call to kind of just, get my butt in the gym, keep working hard, stay after for extra reps, come in early, make sure I'm helping set the net up, doing all the little things. Ended up becoming a starter halfway through my freshman year, and I started, I think, every single game from then until I graduated. I got some cool awards and honors along the way, which is always nice. But we always had my junior year, Blake's sophomore year, I think. We had an awesome season, best season we've ever had as a team. And for me, that was like the reason I went there. There's something that about that year that will never really be forgotten because it's not such a great program, and we did something super special, beating nationally ranked teams and things like that. And then towards the end of my senior year, I guess, moving on to the pro side, which is a very little known thing here in the United States, but pro volleyball is really big over in Europe. I got contacted by a few agents towards my senior year. They thought, I might be a good fit to play professionally. And an agent took a chance on me. They signed me, and they found me my first contract 2 years ago. I went and played and lived in Tel Aviv, Israel. And I played for Maccabi Tel Aviv. That was just an unbelievable experience. You get to live overseas, away from home. Even though college might feel away from home, you really feel away from home overseas. And the transition is different. College is you feel comfortable there, even though it's not particularly your home. And I didn't realize it until I left and went overseas that, you still have Targets and Walmarts, and everyone speaks English, and you can go to the grocery store and it's no problem, and your parents are a quick phone call away. And then I got overseas, and all of a sudden I'm 7 hours ahead. So if I had a problem at 10 in the morning by me, I can't call my parents. It's 3 a.m. And going to the grocery store is a hassle. I got to sit there with Google Translate and everything. I don't know how to read these other languages. And you it's a very, I wouldn't say lonely, but an isolated experience where you go to this other country, and in college, you're so close with your teammates. We live together. We hang out together. We all eat together. We spend way too much time together in college. And in the pros, we had guys from 18 years old on our team to 35. Guys have kids. Guys have other lives. They have things going on. There was practice. There was training. And then it was like, all right, we'll see you. Enjoy living in this country that you know nothing about. So for me, the beginning was pretty hard. But, you get your stride. You start to learn new things. You start to make some friends, possibly outside the team overseas. And then the level is just better than anything you've seen before, and it was such a again, a humbling experience because I had reached the peak of college volleyball as a libero. I was like, all right, how much harder could I get? And it got a lot harder. And guys are hitting the ball, another 5-6 miles an hour harder, and guys are jumping a little bit higher. Everything's running a little bit faster, and the fans are a little bit rowdier. So I did that. Came back after that year. I was invited to the USA Gym. I got to train with Team USA for pretty much a whole summer, but we'll talk about that later. And then I just played this year in Finland for a team called Savo Volley. Very different than Israel, but I loved it there. It was a better league than Israel. There's different tiers of leagues, so I was moving up. We had a great fan base, great team. But again, we had guys 19 years old. I'm 23. Our oldest guy was 35. He had 2 kids. It's a very different dynamic than what you're used to, because you're not playing with guys your own age anymore. You're playing with a grown man who's played professionally for 20 years. So your levels of expertise are just all over the place. But for me, it's an experience that I'll never, ever regret. And it's something that's been so dear to my heart. And I, hope to continue to play. And I hope some of you might have the opportunity to be able to go and play overseas, because it's honestly a once in a lifetime thing that has been the best thing in my life so far. Sorry, that was kind of long.
No, that's awesome. I think it's a lot of good information, kind of gives insight into the differences in pro ball and how it's, the team dynamic changes to an extent from college to club. And so we appreciate you sharing. So Blake, let's talk about your journey. I know you had a little bit of a different journey as well, with starting out D3 school, then transferring to Sacred Heart, and even changing positions. So why don't you tell us a little bit about that?
Yeah, so I guess in club, I just to start there, I played for MAVC, which I don't know if any of you RVC guys know, but it's your old rival club, no longer existed. Then was Two Rivers, so you might have heard of that one, which I think it doesn't exist anymore, pretty sure, yeah. So, but I, played for them, always competing against you guys, which I loved, but started my 16th year, and I had an awesome coach who, set the tone for volleyball for me. So I was lucky I didn't approach volleyball from the beginning with kind of a lackluster attitude. He was all business, and then just continued to kind of grow from there. I was never sure really until Coach Ayers started coaching me and Coach Forbes that I wanted to play in college, which was my 18th year. So, it's January. I haven't even decided if I want to play in college yet. Thank goodness, someone, who ended up being Josh and I's coach at Sacred Heart, Greg Walker, recruited me to Alderson Broadus, which is a Division II school in West Virginia. So started there, and then Greg got an offer to go to Sacred Heart, and he asked me and one other person to go along with him. So couldn't really pass that up like Josh says. It's the level of play. You can just tell watching film, it's different speeds, and really it's the depth of good players. I'll say whenever we had our best teams, I felt like we had no real weak link, no one that we felt super unsure about. It was just keeping that competitive level of practice and stuff, which kept that going. But yeah, so then, got on to Sacred Heart, which at first, was very different, for me, because I always walked in the gym automatically I was the best player right away. And I walk in and I have this guy, I look over at Josh, who's libero at the time. I'm also a libero. I look over at Josh, Josh is 5'8", and I'm like, I'm going to beat Josh out. And then Josh is just sitting there for like months and months, just diamond everything, and just set a whole new, tone about how good you have to be to even, smell the court in this conference. I was coming in mostly as a serving sub behind Josh my freshman year. And then, Josh was so good, and everybody knew Josh had intentions to go play pro. At least it was thought of at that point. And so I was like, man, I got to get on the court. Like, what should I do? And, I got to credit Josh actually a fair amount for this. He was the one who, kind of saw me just mess around in practice. Our setter, who also ended up going playing pro, just sets me a bic, and I hit one really good one. And then we play St. Francis on a Friday. One of our outsides doesn't have a good game. And Josh, approached our coach and was like, we got to try Blake it outside. And that just so happened to be against Penn State, for my first game. And, I didn't start, but I came in and played the majority of the game, kind of rotating in and out. He was kind of a big hitter. I mostly came in for the back row, but, I would stay up front, which always looked silly when there's 5'11" and then there's 6'8" and 6'7". So that was always a funny photo op. But, it was tough to adjust. I know we might talk about this a little later, but I had to start working out like crazy. I won't get into super big depth about that here, but it took a huge commitment, because I had to be able to jump really high as a little guy, and I had to be able to do it over and over again. And, I just had to find a way to get on the court. And that was my path basically to do it, is to, I got to switch to outside. Josh isn't going anywhere. He's only a year older than me. I could compete behind him and maybe, start trading, reps with him every once in a while in situational spots. But it was like, regardless, at best, you're only going to be getting in here and there in situational circumstances. So, I kind of just had to audible and, learn outside from scratch. I'd played a little in high school, but not much. So, that was a difficult challenge, but, I like to think that I rose to the occasion and, became at least a decent outside hitter. Whether I wasn't a great hitter, I was a really good defender and a really good serve receiver. It was always nice basically having two liberos back there passing with me and Josh. We had a lot of confidence next to each other, trusted each other a lot. I like to claim I'm the only person that can jump in front of Josh. And if I pass it good, he's like, yeah, you're good, whatever. Everyone else, you just hound you, be like, yeah, I don't care that you could pass it. I need it. but yeah. So, that was a cool transition. Learning outside, which is, it's a fun position. So, I definitely didn't hate it. But, played outside. So my sophomore, junior year, and Josh leaves. And we have a big hole at libero. And so I ended up playing libero my senior year and have a pretty solid season. So, I recently kind of had to, talk about my transition. I had the opportunity to play in England for this college pro team, which basically allows you to get a master's. While you're playing at this, it's probably about the level the EIVA is in play. It's not necessarily like Josh level pro, but it's still, it's still very high level volleyball. But, I decided I wanted to stay in the working world. I loved volleyball. I'd had some, rough injuries throughout my time at Sacred Heart. So, kind of just had to make a decision there. But, I definitely don't regret anything. I'm so happy. I went to Alderson Broadus first and then ended up at Sacred Heart. It was an awesome journey. So, yeah.
Awesome. So the end of your statement there kind of segues us into our next question. So looking back at your high school recruitment, I know you guys said, for you, Josh, it didn't exactly go how you thought it would. Is there anything you feel you should have done differently as far as, I don't know, getting yourself more exposure or talking to more programs or just sending people videos because you never know? Is there anything you changed from the way you did your recruitment?
I'll take this one first, Josh. So I just would have got my name out there earlier. I was way behind in the process. This is something, for me, I was a little bit more unique. I didn't even know if I wanted to play until later, but man, I wish I would have made that decision earlier and got my name out there, maybe could have, got to Sacred Heart right away, in which going there late affected my academics greatly. I had to redo a bunch of courses, basically set me back a whole year. But, I, also could have ended up at a George Mason or, something like that. Maybe that would have, the coaches would have had suggestions, hey, come to our camps, hey, this and that. So, I just wish I would have been a little bit more aggressive and a little bit, earlier in the process, contacting coaches and putting together film and stuff. So.
Cool.
Yeah. I don't know. It's always an interesting thing for me to think about because when I go back and I think about all the things that I did to try and get recruited, I had no idea how to make any videos, but I was cutting out my own video. My dad had like a little camcorder he would bring to every game. And the next, like if we played Friday, Saturday, Sunday, by Tuesday, I had sent an email to every single college coach in the country. And I did that for an entire 2 years. I did that my 17th and my 18th year. And Blake knows this, and anyone else who knows me knows that I don't really mince words, and I'm not aggressive, but I'm truthful about level of play and understanding where I'm at. And I think my biggest downfall was I just wasn't good enough. I thought I was a lot better than I was, and that confidence and that like cocky swagger about it is a fantastic thing to have as an athlete, but also could be super detrimental to your own mental health when other people don't believe that you're the same thing. So recently I've had the opportunity to go back and look at some of my like high school recruiting tapes. And now being the person and player that I am now, I know if I coached a Division I program, I would not have taken me. So I think my biggest piece of advice then would be to have someone who knows more than you about the game, review your stuff, and maybe hey, this doesn't look so great. This one's a good play. Let's highlight that one more. Because I was like, well, that looked cool to me. That's good. And I was like I was a 16-year-old kid actually playing with the 17s. It's like, that looked cool. I just dove halfway across the court. And my, 23-year-old professional volleyball brain goes, well, why didn't you just take one step? You know? And I got to learn that there's just, being from our region of the country, you know, the East Coast, there's so many good players in the Midwest and in California that you don't know about. So you need to use your resources. So I think for me, I didn't use my resources. I was super aggressive. Every coach had my email. Every coach had 5-6 videos of me. But I almost like a proofreader. I didn't have an editor. I was just sending out raw, boom, go. And to me, it looked great, but it was me sending about me. Of course, I thought it was great. So I think for me, I didn't know too many people, but I knew people who knew more volleyball than me, and I could have had them take a look and tell me what was looking good, what was looking bad, just to make it a little bit more polished so that I could compete with those kids who come from California, who have all the resources that I did not have. You know, I think that's something that I would do.
Cool. So yeah, just to touch on that, guys. So if you're serious about playing in college, you got to get your name out there early. But also, again, like Josh touched on, use your resources, use your coaches, use the people at the club to help us with your videos. You know, send us what you have, let us review it, and we'll help you get to where you want to get the best that we can. Don't be afraid to ask for help. Don't feel like you have to do it all on your own. You know, I know my guys on the call have told you this before. If it's something you're interested at, make a list of the schools you're interested in, start working on your videos, start thinking about different things that you want to do, and start contacting people. The earlier you get your name out, the better. And then from there on, it's just putting in the hard work, putting in the time, putting in the work. And if it's something you're really serious about, then you got to dedicate yourself to it. Because like Josh and Blake indicated, and I've told you, the level of play once you get to college it rises up even more. So you've got to elevate your game. When you think you're training hard, there's somebody else that's out there training twice as hard as you are. So you got to keep that in mind if it's something you really want. So let's go on to our next question. So when you guys begin preparing for a big opponent, so let's say Penn State, how much film study goes into that?
Cool. I'll take this one for now. I think Blake and I had an interesting scout experience from our coach. Our coach is a super analytical human being. We were pretty consistent as far as doing film. We don't do as much film as you would imagine. But Greg, our coach, would print us out these scouting reports that were like 100 pages a piece, like this thick of just paper, killing thousands of trees in the process. And the thing is, a lot of it was useless, but a lot of it was super useful. And when you prepare for those teams, it's really important, and I think Greg did a good job at this, is to not take a team like Penn State and say, this game's important, and play a team that's not Penn State and say they're not so important. So we'll watch video here, but we won't watch video here. You know, at times, you know, there's time constraints and there's things that get in the way, and of course you have to prioritize. But in a perfect world, you would want to treat everyone equally. Because at our level, it takes one guy to get hot, and all of a sudden they've ruined everything you were looking at. That being said, I don't know if this is part of the question, but in the film, we would watch servers. I know personally, I write down a lot of serving tendencies. We would watch the hitters in different rotations and kind of see, hey, in row one, they only set outside. So maybe we can start one step over. We start one step to the right so we can kind of get there a little bit quicker. And if they decide to toss the ball oppo, great, good for them. They did something we didn't prepare for, but that's also not what they do. So those film sessions are super important. And the higher levels you get, it's even more important because the ball gets faster and faster and faster, and you have less and less time to be in the wrong place and make the right play. You have to put yourself in the right place before the play is made. And then if they do something that's outside of their ordinary, outside of their tendency, outside of something that they've ever done before, then you just give them a nice little round of applause, exactly like Blake's doing, right? If they tag line, back corner, great. That was awesome. Give them a handshake. Give them a hug. I don't care. But those film sessions are super important to break down what's going to happen 90% of the game. The other 10%, so be it. So I think that answers the question. I kind of forgot the question.
Yeah, no, I think that definitely answers the question. So just trying to give insight, what film study plays into your preparation for matches. And like you said, scouting those tendencies from your servers, from your hitters, knowing what they're most likely to do. That way you can position yourself before the play happens. You know where the ball's set, where you should be automatically based on where that hitter is, where they like to go. And if you get beat, you get beat. That's just how it happens sometimes. But yeah, so Blake, is there anything you want to add as far as the film study goes? Or
I mean,
Josh covered it?
that's pretty much right in line. Yeah, I mean, you got to watch a lot of it on your own, especially, we would probably, what, Josh, maybe like once or twice as a team watch film before a match or something like that. Maybe, probably usually just one time. And so, it's something, I know Josh and I, at least did, we took it upon ourselves. We watched film on our own, and just picking up on those tendencies. But we did have that luxury of our coach already having all of that stuff, broken down for us. But, once that coach left eventually, I did my senior year without him. And so scouting became a whole different thing. I mean, I had to take it upon myself, which you probably should do anyway, but, to go back and really look at all these tendencies and not just trusting, like I had it perfectly laid out when Greg was our coach, but, I had to go back. I had to look at all these tendencies. How many times did he hit this spot? What's his hand angle when he goes there? How can I pick up on that? And, like Josh said, how can I position myself? Should we shift left to start this? Should we go out seams or in seams because of what he usually hits? So, so it's super important. And, I think, I know Brandon, like we watch film occasionally when I was on the 18s level. So something you can incorporate, just picking up on small tendencies, and they might just win you 2 points, but, that could win you the game. So
absolutely,
every little thing is important, I would say.
Cool.
Can I add one thing to that?
Go for it.
Yeah, so I realize probably a lot of you don't have film on like other 16-year-old kids because that'd be kind of weird. But what you can do, like Blake's saying, right? You got to take it upon yourself when you're at those big club tournaments. We've been there, played a bunch of those. Go around. Who's in my pool, right? Instead of just like snacking on chicken nuggets and sitting in the corner waiting for the next game, go watch. Oh, these 2 guys are there in our pool. Let's go watch them. Bring a notebook. And, you don't need to write every little detail down. But, hey, number 10 is this team's best player, and he only swings cross. Great. Boom, let's go. Because your coach knowing that info and telling you is a very, very different thing than you watching it, experiencing it for yourself, and then turning it into knowledge for yourself, right? Being told something is not the same as actually learning it for yourself. So use those opportunities when you see, all right, hey, this is the team we're playing next, and I heard this guy is super good. Let's go watch what he does, even if you only watch one player. Because I guarantee you, if he gets 10 kills usually, and you guys know, maybe he'll only get 7. You only got to win by 2 points.
That's right. Awesome. All right, so Blake, walk us through what a typical practice day looks like for you guys. So, because when you get to that college level, when you get to college in general, your parents aren't there with you anymore. You're there by yourself. You're playing volleyball, and you're doing your schoolwork. It's a lot of time commitments, a lot of, responsibility that you're responsible for, and you have to be disciplined to really, take upon yourself and to do the things you're supposed to be doing. So walk us through what a typical practice day looks like for you guys. Was there a lift in the morning? Did you guys have practice in the afternoon? How did it go?
Yeah, Josh, just so you know what I'm talking about, I'm going to kind of refer to my sophomore, junior year, senior year here about how our practices went. They were intense, honestly. I mean, we were, like I said, we had that super deep group of guys. And so we were competitive every single day because everybody knew, 95% of this core, everyone's good. You cannot just use your ability. You can't get past them. If they turn it on and you're just kind of half-assing it, like they're going to put it to you. And I mean, that's just how it's going to go. But, so typical day for us, I believe we had 6 a.m. practice. So run from, 6 to 7:45, 7:50, 8 o'clock. And then we go straight down and lift. So, probably hit a solid, 30 minutes is required, and then, kind of stay after if you can, do some extra lifts until 9 if you can. But if you got class, hit the road. And then, some days we'd have film, not typically, but, maybe once a week, and then on like a Friday or something like that, we would have film. But, yeah, basically we just have a 2-hour practice in the morning, which, you know, you kind of hate, but I would say it helped me tremendously. I was so disciplined in college. You couldn't get away with going out, you know, on a weeknight or anything like that. So for me, like playing a sport in college was one of the most beneficial things for me because it kept me so disciplined. It kept me focused. You didn't have time to, you know, wait 6 hours to do an assignment, man. Like you get practice, you hit the gym, you do recovery, you get food, and you got to do schoolwork. I mean, there's just not a lot of, you know, pitter patter time or anything like that. So I guess I would give you a pretty good walkthrough of what our day looks like.
Cool. All right, so Josh, game days, home game days. Walk us through what a typical home game day looks like. How early do you guys get in the gym? How long's your warm up? You know, what do you find yourself doing on a home game day?
Oh, absolutely. I mean, I'm a big routine guy. So our home games, they're pretty sweet because you can line your routine up really nicely. Away games, things get, you know, you got to do work on the bus and things like that. And it's not the same, right? You really feel more like a student athlete on away games. On home games, it's kind of like, all right, I got a game today. It's everything else on hold. For the most part, most of us don't take classes on Fridays because we know we have games on Fridays and Saturdays. So we try to prepare our schedule the way that would be beneficial to us. It's usually wake up and we have some sort of morning practice, maybe 9 or 10 o'clock, mostly like a serve and pass, just to kind of get in the gym, shake some rust off from yesterday's practice. You know, it'd already been 24 hours since we played last, and just get in the gym. Some guys, you know, make sure they're moving. Some sort of recovery. Some guys would go and lift, but really it would be that 1 hour practice time, and then you have a little bit of time on your own. And thankfully for us, most of the guys were doing the things they're supposed to be, getting recovery in, you know, hitting some Normatex, getting a lift in. Most of us would go back and take naps. So we usually got practice, some food, a nap. We'd be back in the gym pretty early. So our games are at 7. I think we'd be back in the gym by 3.
Yep.
So we'd be back in the gym by 3. So that's not a big turnaround. But quick nap, hit the gym back at 3. We'd usually have another team meeting just to like reiterate some things. Hey, you know, this is what we're looking for. This is what we're doing, just to refresh some of the guys who might not have such a strong memory on the team, which we had a few of those. And we were super thankful that we had Greg Walker as our coach because Greg loves to splurge on food. So we would always have a nice team meal. Every college team will have a nice team meal before a game. But we would have like Chipotle catered or Qdoba. Sometimes we'd have Jimmy John's or Subway. It was fantastic. I really look forward to our pregame meals. Pregame meal, then it was a little bit of free time. You had to be up on the court. There's 90 minutes for us in the East Coast Conference, at least in the EIVA. So if a game's at 7, 5:30, the countdown clock starts going for warm-ups. But I know myself, Blake, a couple other guys would make sure we got up there so we could already be competitive before the game started and play some short court. And it was not like a little light warm-up short court. It was like Blake sweats just as much as me. We would look like we had played 4 matches already before it was even time to warm up. And it was just that energy, that game day adrenaline going, and we would make sure we're competing and we're yelling at each other, and it kind of gets those like fiery juices going, you know, because if you can yell and be competitive with someone that you're, you know, really good friends with, it's really easy to do it with some guys that just got off the bus. Then, you know, for us, since it's 90 minutes, it's a really long time to, you know, be doing some stretching and things like that. We'd start around 75 minutes, hit some dynamics, pepper a little bit, and then you get into a little bit of like 6-on-6, switch off with the other team, and then it's go time. And, you know, it's really up to you to make sure you make the most of your warm-up time. I knew every time I'm about to play, I was not warm. I was hot. I was fired up. I needed to relax a little bit before the game, and I usually do. I end up sitting down and cooling off a little bit. But everyone knew their responsibility. So guys, you know, took it seriously, and we warmed up and hopefully prepare for a nice win and get to do it again the next day if it's a Friday, and if it's Saturday, then get to celebrate a little bit.
Cool. So I think there's
Sorry, Brent.
Oh, go ahead, Blake. Go ahead.
Do you mind talking about I know since you started playing pro, I think the past 2 seasons, or it might have just been this year, you started you have like the VB mindsetter, the guy you
Yeah.
talked to before.
Oh, yeah.
I don't know, I don't know, I feel like it'd be interesting for these guys to kind of hear, a little bit about that process.
Yeah, for sure. That's true. So something new that I've been doing this season is I started working with this guy. His name is also Josh Breck-Kaizen, something like that. He played at BYU many moons ago, and he works with a couple USA volleyball guys, and he is a mindset coach. I got introduced to him through Dustin Watton. I'm sure some of you guys know who Dustin Watton is, but if you don't, he's one of the USA national team liberos. He's a bald guy with a big beard. And basically, I started talking with this guy before every match. And what he would do is he would kind of walk me through this visualization technique of, I see myself on the court. I see what I want to do. Hey, what are my intentions for the game? So, I want to make sure I'm going after every single ball in defense. I'm getting my feet stopped when I'm making serve receive. I make sure that I'm making smart decisions when I'm setting the ball when I have to. And he would run me through these visualization techniques that would help me see myself do these things properly before the game ever started. And it's pretty funny because I would just do it right there in the stands before the game, like an hour and a half before the game. So fans would take pictures of me because it looks like I'm just taking a nap in the stands. But it's a visualization meditation technique that kind of helped me get in the zone for all the games. And it was super beneficial for me. I mean, anytime I envisioned something cool happening in my brain, I was able to make it happen on the court. And it was something that I love doing this year. It's something I'm going to continue to do. And it's something I think all of you should look into, because the power of your mind, it's so strong. And they really tell you that, if you can think it, you can do it. And at a certain point, there are some things, obviously we can't, but when it comes to the limitations of your body and your physical ability, and you think of the right things, you're able to achieve so much more without having to do more physically, without having to kill yourself, 6-7 hours in the gym. So yeah, thanks for bringing that up. I kind of forgot about that. I was thinking about Sacred Heart. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that was good. Yeah, thanks, Blake, for bringing that up. And I definitely agree with that. One of the things I've always told my kids is talk through the game in your head as it's happening. Talk through everything that's going on. And, eventually you do it enough, you get used to running through every point. Where's the ball going? Who got it up? Where's the setter at? Is he too far over? So he's not likely to go out to the pin. Is he going back to the right side? The more you do that, the more comfortable you get doing that, the game will eventually start to slow down for you. That's the hope. So, I think mindset's very important. And so that was a good thing to touch on. So let's talk about real quick, player that impressed you the most in college, Blake, and why?
So I kind of broke this down a little bit. I kind of have it by, skill and technicality, and then I have kind of an athleticism one, and then I have a combination of both.
Okay.
So, for not to toot Josh's horn too much, man, but Josh is absolutely the most technically sound volleyball player I've ever played with in my life. I mean, my freshman year, I could just get away with not having, great technique. I was really athletic. I was really quick, really fast. I could get behind everything. I could touch everything, but it was the quality of my ball over and over and over, doing it, hitting 15, 23 passes in a row that are just dimes. Like, it is, even doing that with free balls, like you think you can do that, but you got to do it. Like, and it's a lot harder than you think. And so on a technical standpoint, Josh is insanely technical. I'm sure he's, probably had experience with some pros where he'll be able to talk about some, probably even more technical people. But, from my experience, Josh is hands down the most technical player I've ever played with. And then athleticism, Jalen Penrose from Penn State. Dude was insane. 6'7", 38, 40-inch vertical, something stupid like that. He's serving. Me and Josh are just sitting there basically playing defense against him, when he's serving. And so, that was always really fun. I swear he had to have been serving low to mid 70s at some point. But, he could also, but he was hard to predict because he didn't know where the ball was going. So you couldn't know where it was going because it might go halfway across, Penn State's gym, or it could, just somehow find the back right corner of the court. So you never know. And then my combination of everything, and I'm kind of sticking to just college guys here, but Micah Ma, just the combination of athleticism, skill, just being super intelligent, and also probably being one of the most creative players I've seen play. I mean, you can tell he doesn't feel the limitations around the game and kind of feel like he can do anything. So yeah, it's probably my favorite player to watch though.
Micah's a freak.
Yeah.
Awesome.
I love Micah.
All right, Josh, we'll extend yours out even more then. So
Oh man.
most impressive person in college and why? And then I want to know who's the person that impressed you the most inside the USA gym.
All right. So my college player overlaps, but it's not the same answer.
Okay.
If that makes sense. It's like my college player is also in the USA gym, but he doesn't count because he's not the most impressive player in the USA gym to me.
Okay.
But my freshman year, I had broken into the starting lineup halfway through my season. And we had played 2 games against the New Jersey teams, Princeton and NJIT, and then we were going off to play Penn State. We had played them once earlier in the season, and I was just a serving specialist, and now I was going to be a starter in Rec Hall. And they had this guy, his name was Aaron Russell. He is 6'8". He is an outside hitter. He was a senior at the time, so he was 22. I was 18. And he was slated to be like the next Olympian. He was going to the next Olympics. I'm watching film on him, and I in my 18-year-old cocky brain, I said, well, he's just a person. He's just a person. He's just like us. How much better at this game could he possibly be? And then on the very first ball of the game, we went up and we decided no matter what, we were going to triple block Aaron Russell to send him a message that he couldn't intimidate us. We were there. We were going to show up, and someone else on his team was going to have to beat us, but he wasn't going to beat us. We set up a beautiful triple block. I hunker in all the way on the 10-foot line. I'm in 5. I'm on the 10-foot line with my left foot on the 10-foot line, so I'm facing in, right? If you guys can all imagine that. And Aaron Russell goes up and absolutely just hammers the ball 4-4, a good 3-4 feet in front of me, bouncing it into the stands of Rec Hall over our triple block. I come into the huddle and I go, guys, we are so screwed. That guy is amazing. And throughout college, that just stuck in my brain so much because he was just so much greater than everyone we had played with. Fast forward a few years when I got to go to the USA gym, I've gotten to play with Aaron more, which is very cool for me. And I've told him that story and he doesn't remember, but I do. And that's okay. Because I'm sure that was a normal thing for him, but that wasn't normal for me. There are a few people in the USA gym that I am mesmerized with. One of them is Micah Maha, as well, as Blake said. I've known Micah since I was 15. I've been playing against him since I've been 15. We've been buddies. And his understanding of the game is so different than other people's. And he sees opportunities to do things where all of us it's not even like we have the thought and we won't do it. The thought never comes into our brain when he does stuff. Micah's one of them. The other one is Micah Christensen, who is the setter for the Olympic team. There's just something about how consistently fluid he is that it's mesmerizing. It's art. It really is. This is a hard one because they're all so good.
Yeah.
But Eric Shoji, who is the national team libero, and widely regarded as probably the second best libero in the world. I would give him the second best libero in the world too. He, again, is someone who takes a ball at 80 miles an hour and it makes it look like a free ball. And he does it consistently over and over and over again. And he makes the rest of us who are liberos, who are professionals, who are in the same gym as him, look like we are children who he is training. No, you want to do this. No, it's easy. You just do this. It's not easy, Eric. It's not easy. Who else? Oh, and Taylor Sander. Taylor is a freak of nature. I remember specifically there was one day we were playing in the gym. Most of the Olympic guys were done with practice. They end a little bit earlier and they let some of the younger guys play. But Taylor decided he would hang back and play with us. He was recovering from an injury, so he wanted to get more reps in. And we're talking, it was 6 of us on the side, the best college players in the country. All Americans, all going pro. He had 5 guys on his team who were all Americans going pro, but no one was a part of the Olympic group, just him. And Taylor ripped us a new one. Everything. acing us, blocking, digging everything, passing perfectly. And that's the thing about Taylor that a lot of people don't understand. He jumps like crazy. He's got a crazy arm. It's disgusting. It's hard to watch. But what you don't see is his passing. Every morning, outside liberos at USA, we go and pass. And Taylor is just as consistent as the liberos. And that's what makes him so impressive, because he is this freak of nature athletically that could coast strictly on his offensive and defensive ability. But he decided that after BYU, he was going to buckle down and become an amazing passer. And he is a fantastic passer, which makes it so much scarier to play against him, because you just can't give him the ball.
Yeah.
You will lose the point. And I remember we got ran. We were playing like a game to 8, and we lost like 8-0. And Taylor won all 8 points. And then he left. And we were like, well, that's why he gets to go to the Olympics, and all of us don't. But, yeah, that's a tough question for me. Those guys are also good.
Yeah, I'm sure that pretty much every single one of them does impressive things. That's why they're in the USA gym. So.
Yeah, some more than others.
Yeah. All right, so I think I might know Blake's answer to this next question. We'll see if I'm right. Most memorable moment from your volleyball career?
So I guess I'll do like a team and an individual one.
Okay.
So team one, honestly, I would say it was the second time we beat Penn State.
I was going to say that too.
Not the first. It was the second time, because it was like, hold up, we're legit. You know, it was a statement, and we kicked their butts too. I mean, we 3-0'd them. I mean, it was a big statement to the rest of the conference. It was like, look, we're here, we're legit. You know, it wasn't a fluke the first time. We're coming for you. And we did. You know, we went at people all that year. We beat, I think we beat everybody except for George Mason that year.
Yeah.
But that was probably my most memorable team moment and win. And then individually, my sophomore year against George Mason, we are down 2-1. At this point, I guess I'd been playing outside for a little bit at this point, but still wasn't, you know, a consistent starter or anything like that. But I was playing a ton, you know, all the time. But I had played most of this match. Our other outside was not having too good of a game. And, you know, I come in, I'm having, you know, one of my best games I've had up until this point. You know, I'm like 6 for 6 swinging, you know, having this incredible game. And their opposite, who's a Cosby guy, Jack Wilson, at the time, he's the best opposite in the conference at the time. And I just, you know, 24, 23, and I go up and just absolutely roof him. You know, this little 5'11" guy, and the whole place erupted. So that was probably my most memorable individual moment, at least.
I thought you were going to go with the set-winning kill against Penn State.
Yeah, that was a big one. But that, you know, that was kind of incorporated with my team one. That was our second win against Penn State. But yeah, definitely up there.
What you got, Josh?
Oh man, I wrote a few down because I couldn't really decide. You know, beating Penn State at the time and still was what I talked about earlier. When you go to a school like Sacred Heart, who doesn't have a lot of history, to be able to do something that literally, like, I was getting Facebook messages from guys who played at Sacred Heart 25 years ago. And we're like, thank you. You did something that no one else could ever do and probably will never do again. So that was an unbelievable feeling. The first time we played them, I did a lot better than the second time we played them, but I think it's because I played a lot better in the first game. I didn't have to do so much in the second game. So that was a good one. My second day in the USA national team gym, a guy named Matt Anderson was playing. And he went up on an opposite swing, pretty much open net, and no one knew who I was. I was just there based on my awards that I had won. He goes up and just absolutely crushes this oppo swing down the line. And I'm just kind of sitting there, and I just cake him straight up in the air. And everyone on my side, his side, and the coaches all just stopped while the ball was in the air. And you hear Matt audibly going, he doesn't say this, but I'll say it, you know, nice version. He said, "What the heck just happened?" Because he doesn't get dug at practice by the guys who are young and like from college. He just kind of goes and shows off and then leaves. And Matt and I became friends after that. He started talking to me and was like, hey, where are you from? And he's from New York, if you don't know. And I had to pretend like I didn't know. So he's like, where are you from? And I said, I'm from New York, man. And he goes, I was like, oh, where are you from? He's like, I'm from New York. I was like, wow, crazy. And I told him I played at Sacred Heart, and he was like, I played at Penn State. And I was like, I know, Matt Anderson. I know. But I had to pretend, and that was super cool. It's so tough, man. There's so many cool things. I mean, I got to wear a Team USA jersey and be a starter this summer.
So real quick, let me stop you real fast. That'll just take us right into our next question. So let's talk about your time with USA Volleyball, what it's like being in that gym, surrounded by that caliber of talent. Kind of just walk us through what that experience was like.
Okay, yeah, sure. So basically, I had been there the summer after my senior year, and I got invited. And it's invite only, really. I went there. The real coaches weren't there. I got a week, and then they were like, "Thank you, that was great." And I was kind of just like, "Okay, that was cool, I guess." After my first professional season, I got invited back, and they said, "Hey, we're going to give you 2 weeks. You have 2 weeks to prove to us why you should be able to wear a jersey here. We don't know you. You didn't go to a big school, but we know your name was a part of these lists, and we're not sure why, so we want to find out." I said, "Okay, great." I show up in the gym, it's my first day, and it's the national team coaches. Not everyone was back from overseas, but guys were starting to trickle in, and it's all the guys you see. It's all the Olympians are kind of like slowly trickling in. Every Division I All-American is there, and a lot of them are very comfortable there. Day 3, we're like kind of warming up for the morning, just like getting ready, and the assistant coach at the time, who's no longer the coach now, Rob Nielsen, just kind of slyly, he's kind of an awkward guy, and he slyly walks by me and says like, "Hey, you should get some stuff shipped out here. You're staying." And then just like doesn't say anything else. And this was at like 8:30 in the morning, and we were going to practice till 12 and then have a lift, and then we eat. So like we're done at 1:30. So from 8:30 to 1:30, I was like, what did he just say to me? I don't know if I heard him right. Did he just like tell me my dream just came true and I get to be a member of Team USA, or did he just tell me to pack my stuff? I don't remember. So I ended up getting told that they really like me. They want me to stay, and they want me to train, and they want to see what's going to happen. And basically, I'll run you through it. They put a bunch of the guys who aren't able to live on their own into like apartments. So you live with other players. I lived with Price Jarman. I lived with Joe Worsley, Mike Ama'a. Didn't live with us, but slept on our couch pretty much every day. Capono Faye, all those guys. A bunch of the women's players. We all live in like a complex. Every morning, Monday through Friday, we get there like 8. They have breakfast for us. Eat our breakfast. 8:30. Liberos outside passing. Ball machine, just some float serves off the box, just kind of getting loose for the day. Then our strength coach, Tim, takes us through like a really, really nice warm-up, like the hardest warm-up you've ever done in your life, every single day. So that's fun. Around 9:30, we do like this is like that visualization thing again. We do a small meditation visualization session before we're going to really dig deep into practice. Just 5 minutes, just to set some intentions for the day. And then basically 9:35 till 11:30, 12 o'clock, we're running some drills. We're mostly playing. At that level, we're not really running specific drills. It's a lot of like, we're going to warm up drills and then different games of 6-on-6. That ends. They bring you out protein smoothies. I feel like I'm in heaven. It's like the coolest thing ever. They're like, here's your smoothie. I'm like, oh, thanks. And then we go in and we head for a lift. They have these massive binders. Before I even knew that I was staying, they printed up a binder for me with a 12-week training program. And I was like, oh, that's cool. After that, they have lunch catered for us, set up by dietitians and nutritionists. So we're able to kind of make sure we get a really proper meal. So breakfast and lunch is pretty much taken care of. And then they have everything, ice baths, sauna, Normatex, anything you need to do some extra recovery. And then from around 2:30 on to the end of the day, you're kind of on your own. You're hanging out with your new buddies. But for me, coming from where I was coming from, it was such a different experience. We would sit around the pool, and I'd be sitting with a couple of the girls who were playing, a couple of the guys. And I remember specifically, we were sitting there talking about how they were all talking about how many national championships they had won. And we had only been to the conference playoffs one time. and we lost in the semifinals. So I just didn't talk. I was like, I don't want to talk. This is a terrible conversation for me. This guy's like, I lost twice. This one's like, I have 3 rings. I'm like, okay, this is great. But the amazing part about USA Volleyball, and the reason I love volleyball so much, is I got the invite to the gym, and every single person there, whether it was Matt Anderson, Micah Christensen, or the guys like me who were at the bottom of the list, we all treated each other with the utmost respect. And I remember there would be days where I wanted to stay after, and Kavika Shoji wanted to stay after. And he would say, hey, you pass 50 balls for me, I'll serve you 50 balls. Like, you're Kavika Shoji, man. You go to the Olympics. You don't have to do that for me. But he does. James Shaw, All-American from Stanford. He's like, hey, buddy, I'm trying to work, I'm just switching to opposite. Do you want to work on some out-of-system setting? Because I think I could work on some out-of-system hitting. Yeah, man, let's do it. It's such a welcoming environment where you think it should be so dog-eat-dog. And it helps you be the person that you really are. Because when you step in that environment, I really had never been nervous before that day. And then you get there and I'm tense and I can't pass. I remember shanking balls left and right and not crying, but being in that state of just disappointing myself. I had made it so far and I might not get another chance. And then one of these guys like Taylor Sander or Aaron Russell, they know where you're at and they go, hey man, relax. It's okay. Like, we know you're here for a reason. No one's blowing up on you. Don't worry. And that's my favorite part about the USA Volleyball Gym. The culture there is tremendous. They know if you're there for a reason, and that's enough for them. They don't need you to prove anything after that. I think in college, you have to come in, you have to prove yourself again. It's not necessarily, oh, you made the team, welcome. But with that USA Gym and being with those caliber players every single day, day 1, that ball looks like it's coming 100 miles an hour, but day 2, it's 95 miles an hour. And then day 3 in your head, it's 90, and then it's 85. And all of a sudden, you get in this groove and you start to become comfortable. And these people who are so far on the pedestal, people that you don't think you'd ever get to meet, let alone pass them the ball or dig them or get hit in the face by them. You're their peer and we're eating lunch together, and I'm meeting their kids and just things like that where they don't have to do that. Matt Anderson doesn't need to talk to anybody that he doesn't want to, but he does. The first person I met in that gym was Micah Christensen, and he went out of his way, came up to me and said, hey man, I'm Micah, nice to meet you. Like I didn't know who Micah Christensen was. That's something you don't get, I think, in a lot of other sports, especially at that level. And for me, it's just such a welcoming experience, and it's something that I love. And this summer I was able to train pretty much the whole summer I was there. And towards the end of the summer, I got a call that I was going to be one of the liberos for the NORCECA Cup Championships, which is going to be held in Colorado Springs, which was, of course, scheduled for 10 days after I left for Finland this year. So I flew to Finland, and then I practiced for 9 days with my new pro team, and then I left, and I went and I practiced, and I got to play in the first game. I was picked as a starter, and I got to wear a USA jersey, being from Long Beach, New York, going to Sacred Heart University, probably being the first person ever, I think, to do that. And I got to play, against Puerto Rican national team, the Cuban national team, Robert Landy Simon. I don't know if you know who that is. He's the best middle in the world. He was playing for Cuba, and I got to, slot up right against him after that and get to talk to him and play some PlayStation with him when we're hanging out in the dorms. And it's just such a welcoming environment of these amazing, amazing players that you have up here, but they're such good people. And that's why I love volleyball. And it's such a welcoming community of people that just understand that, hey, we're all different levels, but it's okay. We're all here. We all love the same sport. Let's keep growing it. Let's keep making it better, and let's make each other better. Right. And for me, that's my USA volleyball experience. It's less about the volleyball and more about the people. Of course, you can imagine how high level the volleyball is. Just to put in perspective, I guess, for you guys who want to know, they told everyone in the gym that if they could not serve a 68 mile an hour jump serve or faster, they had to switch to a float serve. That was like a requirement. And every day they have a speed gun and they're just yelling, that was only 65. Like, you better bump those numbers up, and that's the level of it's a level of excellence that I had never seen before.
That's great. No, I think that's awesome. It's an experience, that you shared that not a lot of us get to hear about, and not a lot of people get to see or experience. The USA pool to get to that level is so selective, as to be able to make it there and to be able to play with those guys and practice with those guys and just watch them play as well at that, that close. I think that's an awesome experience to have for sure. So you kind of touched on it a little bit as far as the weightlifting. You guys also kind of touched on it when you're talking about college. How important would you say weightlifting, strength training, plyometric training, stretching, yoga, whatever it may be, how important has that been for your development as a player? I know, Blake, especially for you, transitioning from libero to outside, like you said, you really had to hit the gym hard. And, so touch on that a little bit. And also, what are your 1 to 2 favorite exercises?
I want Blake to go first on this, but I just want to preface it with saying that Blake and I are like probably the 2 strongest volleyball players in the world.
Yeah,
that's
awesome.
Yeah, me and Josh, we love to lift. We always lifted together. We were super competitive in the weight room, just like we were on the volleyball court and stuff. But for me, weight training was everything for me. Weight training and it gave me another opportunity to keep starting and and getting on the court in volleyball and stuff. So that meant everything for me. I think I came into my freshman year 155 pounds, and I touched about 10.3 or maybe 10.4, probably 10.3. And I came into my sophomore year 185 pounds, touching 11 feet. Josh was there, it was 10, 11 and a half, but it was 11 feet.
It's 11 feet, it counts.
But yeah, for me, meant everything for me, completely. I got so much quicker. I got so much, just being able to jump so much higher, made a massive difference for me, for sure.
Josh, you got anything you want to add with that?
Yeah, a few things.
Go for it.
The strength component of strength and conditioning is to do exactly what happened with Blake. And I remember when Blake showed up that summer, he was huge. Everyone was like, dude, you were on roids this summer. We know it. We don't care, but it's cool. Like, it's fine. And that's a major component, right? Becoming stronger, becoming faster, becoming quicker, becoming more athletic, and becoming more powerful on the court. Now I'm going to take the flip side of it. Not the flip side, just another view. I play with guys now I played with a guy this year. His name is Ayers, just turned 36 years old. He has been playing pro volleyball since he's been 16 years old. I asked him, he's an outside hitter, by the way. So he's old. He has shoulder problems, knee problems, ankle problems. He's old, at least for volleyball, to be playing volleyball and jumping for 20 years. He's played in some of the best leagues in the world. And I talked to him a lot and just saying, like, how do you preserve yourself? How do you make sure you're still able to do this at 36? And he says, stretching a lot. Every night at home, I'm stretching. This man, when I tell you, took the longest warm-up I've ever seen in my life. I'm not exaggerating. 2 hours before the game, just sitting on the court, just doing this, all these things. And he says, listen, I need to warm up. I need a proper warm-up. And I remember being young and I don't need to warm up. It's cool. It's fine. Take the time to learn the proper techniques, the proper form, and the proper things to do before you play, before you get hurt, right? Unfortunately, right, being strong and being all that stuff is great, but you also need to make sure that you're training things that are going to allow you to play for a long time. So training not just as heavy as you can all the time, but making sure that you're doing things that are going to benefit you physically, but maybe from like a more safety perspective. So when you land, your ankles are a little bit stronger and your knees can handle it a little bit more. And your shoulder can take the wear and tear, because unfortunately it's going to wear and tear. Your body's not supposed to do that over and over and over again. And I know for me, especially recently, as I train more and more for my job, I'm always looking for new things to do. So I've started to do yoga once a day, and I'm trying to get into running, which I hate, but it's something. And finding different ways to make sure your body is the best it can be. Strength is one pillar, right? That strength conditioning is one pillar, and it's probably the biggest one, right? You need to be strong, you need to be physical, you need to be fast, you need to be all these things. But you better be pretty flexible, or else you're just going to snap, right? You better have good mobility in your joints, doing different things to make sure that if you land in a weird position, your body can handle that. And then it's what are you doing those little tiny little tweaks to make sure that your body is primed to play every time. Because it might not feel like you need to do anything right now to warm up. And trust me, I know. I'm 5'8". I don't jump. There was not a chance I warmed up until I was 20 years old. But the science proves that we perform way better if our joints are mobile and things are going like that. So take the time to find, it doesn't need to be a bunch of things, 2, 3, 4 things that you can do on a daily basis. Whether it's a 5-minute stretching routine on YouTube, 20 minutes of yoga, a little bit of mobility to add in with the all-important strength, then you become this full player that you need to become. Being super strong is awesome, but being super strong and immobile and unstable, it doesn't help. And vice versa, being super stable and, I'll have all this amazing flexibility is cool, but it's not going to help you on the court. You need to have both. So I think it's super important. As far as my favorite exercises go, my number one favorite exercise is power clean because it's strictly explosive energy and I got big legs, so I can just throw a bunch of weight around and it's really cool and it makes a loud noise when I drop it.
What about you, Blake? What's your favorite exercise?
Kind of similar. I love doing resistant deadlifts. So that's makes you finish all the way through your lift every single time. Super good for explosiveness. So that's definitely one of my favorite, at least directly volleyball related workouts, no doubt.
Great. So as you guys on the call learned, strength training, weightlifting, mobility, agility, flexibility, all that stuff's very important and help elevating your game. So I know for my guys, 16 years old, you're at that stage where you can really start lifting and really start preparing yourself to play in college if that's what you want and to really reach that next level for your high school careers and your club careers. So you got to get in the weight room. You got to get, outside, work on these things, take care of your bodies after ice, stretch properly. Dynamic warm-up's more important than a lot of us realize, and it'll go a long way for you with, getting on the court and getting going. Worst thing is coming out cold and, trying to start playing. So,
sorry, Brandon, just to add to that, you may not feel it now, but you'll feel it later.
Yes,
I promise you that. You may not be hurting now, you may not be getting sore now, but it will hurt you in the future for sure. I mean, I have terrible knees now because I'm probably in club in high school. I didn't take care of my knees like I should have. I started, I was really intense with that. I was always in AT, always doing recovery in college, but I didn't take care of my knees in high school at all. Always getting banged up, and so come my junior year, I look like an old man. I'm wearing these 2 double knee braces that are like metal, basically. I can't walk, and so yeah, just to avoid that, start doing the little things now.
Yep. Start now, guys. Like Blake said, your body will thank you later, and plus, it's going to help elevate your game to that next level. All right, so let's get into reading attackers and servers. What are some of the key things you guys are looking for when somebody's going back, they're about to rip a hard jump serve, they're going up on the outside, either on a quick set or just a regular outside set out of system? What are some of the things you're looking at for as where to help better position yourself to get ready for that serve, for that pass, or that, that dig on defense?
Josh, you probably have been studying film more recently than me, so you go first and I'll add whatever I think you might have left out.
Yeah. All right. This is tough because reading is a skill that comes with years, with more experience, and it comes with watching more, playing more, and just being more present in the game, right? But if I had to pinpoint a few things, right? So we'll start with servers. The first thing, it sounds silly, but what kind of serve do they do, right? Are they going to rip a jump serve? Are they floating? Do they like to jump float? What are the things that they do, right? Because that can set us up. If they're floating, maybe we can take a step up. If they're jumping, we can take a step back, already putting ourselves in a better position at the start, right? After that, a lot of the time, wherever they're facing, that's where they're hitting the ball. So if they're float serving and they're facing to 5, I bet you they're serving a 5. Right? If they do some weird thing like this, it's probably not a great serve. So take in the small cues. And something that I used to tell my club girls when I was coaching, when I was at Sacred Heart, was to be an active participant in your viewing experience of what you're seeing, right? So rather than just seeing, oh, that's a jump serve, that's going to come hard, actively view it. So if they're jumping, right, I'm looking, where'd that ball go? Did they toss it out too far to their right? Because they're probably going to have to hook it back in. Did they toss it to their left and now they're jumping? They're probably going to go away from their body. Did they toss it behind them? Now it might be a little bit of loopy. I can just take it with my hands and go fast, right? We can gain so much info about where the ball is going to be before it's even served, based on the toss, based on the angle, based on everything. So for me, it's where's that toss going, right? What's their arm doing, right? If they're float serving and their arm is only coming back to here, you know, we got a short serve on our hands. It's no problem, right? And then at the last second, if you can, if not, great, it's fine. What's their hand doing, right? If they're jump serving and every single time they're just finishing thumb up, well, why don't we take a step right? If they're serving from 1. If they're serving from 5, they're probably going thumb down. They're going to serve it away from that line. And we can position ourselves in places where the highest percentage of balls are going, right? We don't need to get every ball, but we need to get most balls, right? So it's a combination of watching the toss, watching where they're facing, maybe watching how fast they're coming in, right? You'll see some jump servers who they slow down and you're like, oh, okay, great. They can't crush that ball. And then positioning yourself in a position that looks appropriate. You're probably still gonna have to move, but you might as well get yourself a little bit more set up, right? And I guess moving into a hitter, right? So say we have that's for serving. It's a little further away. You have a little bit more time to react. But now you're on defense. Someone's hitting the ball at you, and they're from the outside, right? We'll stick with the outside for now. First thing I'm looking at, number one thing, where is that guy standing on the court? Is he 3 feet outside the antenna? And he's going to come in on this crazy 45-degree angle? Great. My setter should come off the line. I'm going to shift left. Everyone's going to shift left because this guy is coming to crush the ball hard cross. Okay? Maybe he's set up in the perfect position. Great. What's the next thing? Where's that ball? Right? Where is that set going? You guys are 16 years old. The setters are not great. You should have a pretty good idea of where they're going to hit the ball based on where that set's dropping. If it's fallen 2-3 feet inside the pin, you can bet they're either going to tip that ball line or try to go into that deep cross. Right off the set. You don't even have to worry about the hitter. That set's going, too far outside the pin, which I'm sure happens a lot. It did happen a lot when I was younger. Great. You're probably going to catch a roll shot. But now, right, now we have a good set. Our block's up. What's this guy doing? How fast is he coming in? Right? Again, we have to worry about the people that we're playing against. So for you guys, how fast is this kid coming in? If he's coming in full speed, he's trying to hit the ball. If he's not, he's probably going to roll the ball. He doesn't have that deceptive ability yet. He doesn't learn that. If he does, it's a different story, but I'm a percentage guy. I don't think he does. So how fast is he coming in? Where's his arm at? Right? Is he approaching with his arms down? Because then he's just going to get some weird swing. But if he's got everything perfect and lined up, take a look at his elbow. Where is it pointing to? Right? Because if he's coming line, he's going to have to bring that elbow a little bit more in front to finish line. And if he wants cross, he's going to cut the ball off and the elbow is going to push cross a little bit more. Right? So we can pick up so much of what's going to happen based on where the set is, how fast this guy's moving, where he was standing, and after we played a couple points, what does he usually do? Right? Not every set, not every play is a reset. If that guy hit the last 4 balls cross, guess what? The 5th ball is coming cross. And if it's going line, he's probably not so good at line. He's going to roll shot. You're going to be fine. Okay? And for me, something that I always tell younger people too is worry less about let me rephrase. If you were to cut out 1 foot from the sideline and end line, right? Like 1 foot inside, that's our new court. If they're pegging lines and back corners and between 1 foot and out of bounds, again, good for them. We can adjust. But we're going to bet that 85, 90% of the balls are going to land within our new court. Now we have a smaller position to play against. We don't have to worry about this big court. Now we have a little smaller court. And in our minds, even though technically the court is the same size, we have just created a smaller environment for the 6 of us to be in, right? So I guess my last piece of advice would be, if you're someone on your team who is able to read a little bit better than other people, don't keep it to yourself. Right? I was always a pretty good reader of the ball because I had played volleyball from such a young age. So I'd seen, and I played beach volleyball, so there's a lot of shots and weird deceptive things, and I learned to pick up on those things. So what do? I tell my guys, hey, when he's looking like this is where I want you to go. I want you to shift right. I want you to shift left. This is what's going to happen if he does this. You know, not everyone is going to be a super gifted reader, and that's fine. But volleyball is the ultimate team sport. Communicate. Use what you know to better your teammates, and you'll be able to put yourself in a 5, 6, 7% better area than where you would have been. You know? So I guess I would leave it with, you know, become an active participant in your viewing experience. So not just watching the guy jump up and hit and then reacting. Reacting as it's happening. Okay, he's moving, you can creep in a little bit, he's coming towards me, the ball is short, his elbow's cocked, he's hitting the ball right at me, I'm ready to go. Right? You did all that work prior. Now all you got to do is execute. That's the easy part. That's the fun part. That's the dig that goes on the highlight reel and mom's crying and, you know, she's all excited. But you got to do the work ahead of time. You got to see what's going on, and you got to make sure that when you do that work, you actually put it into practice. Not, I knew that was going to happen. Go there. Make your move. What did his elbow do? Where is he facing? How high is he reaching? Right? Is his arm down here? What is he doing before? Have you ever seen him bounce line? Great. It probably hasn't. Move over. Right? What's our block doing? Things like that, right? So just actively participate in what you're seeing, and you'll be so much more successful rather than seeing and then reacting, right? We're reacting the entire time we're seeing it, so that we only have this split second where we actually have to make an action. Does that make sense?
Yeah. No, I think that's all good stuff. And, you know, I think it goes into kind of as well, make the most of your time off the court. So like Josh said, touched on earlier, you know, watch the teams that are in your pool when we go to these tournaments. See the players you're going to be going against, you know, who's the team's best player. And again, start picking up on those little things. Where does the setter like to go? Does he not get the ball pushed all the way out to the pin? What's the hitter doing? You know, what Josh talked about with everything. Where's his shoulders facing? What's his elbow doing? You know, all those different things. Make the most of your time if you're on the bench, watching the other side, watching what your teammates do too, so you can help them get better if there's something you're seeing. You know, because like the game happens fast. The more you watch it and the more you communicate about it. I know the guys on my team here, I'm a big communication guy on the court, talk to each other. What are you seeing? What are they doing? Let's talk about it out loud so we can all be on the same page. It's like Josh said, you might see something that somebody else doesn't. If you yell it out loud, they can react to it. Maybe you get the point, maybe you don't. But the more you start communicating, the game will slow down. You guys will get more comfortable as a team, and you'll know things to do ahead of time. So, Blake, is there anything you want to add?
I mean, Josh covered a lot there. I mean, that's that's it right there. For me, I guess, you know, applying it, I guess the best thing that helped me learn to read was just playing beach volleyball all the time, nonstop. You know, just for a whole summer, just every single day played beach, and you know, it just kind of isolates that one person. You're only focusing on one person really. What angle are they hitting? You're looking at their hand. You know, there's. For me, that's how playing beach was how I learned to read the best. And also, you know, Josh, like you said, Josh is the one who started saying those things out loud. And so I started saying them out loud, and we became so much more cohesive the more and more we played together. So he's absolutely right. I mean, it's so important to say those minor things, those little things that you think, you know, whatever, you like, say them. It will help.
Yeah, it's, you know, again, the communication is key. And I know a lot of you guys, you know, especially at 16s, you don't understand how important that is with your team development and the things you can accomplish if you raise your communication to the next level, not only your game, but your communication. So I think it's a big factor in getting to that next step in your player development. So let's go on to our next question. You guys may have touched on this a little bit with talking. So what is one area in your game that you wish you spent more time on prior to getting to college? You know, what's one area you thought, well, I'm good at this, I don't really need to focus on it as much. I'm good to go. Then you get to college and you're like, well, I'm not as technically sound at that as I maybe thought I was. So what's one area of your game you wish you would have focused on prior to getting to college?
I can take this one first, Josh.
Hey, buddy.
I mean, for me, it was setting, hands down. I mean, I just as soon as I came into the gym, I guess it was particularly Josh's junior year. I saw our offense go to this whole different level because we were always in system because Josh had such good hands, and that is something right away I started working on. Josh would help me all the time, just staying after practice, setting balls. We would basically convince our coach to run drills so that we could just sit there and set out of system balls for like 30 minutes. We talked to him before practice, we should incorporate this more. I think it helps out, just trying to get more reps like that. But yeah, I mean, definitely setting. I mean, we were running tempo, we were running middles out of system. So it just completely changed the complexion of the game for our whole team. And just, I think for anybody, I think you take a big step forward. If you are a fluid setter, that is a plus, no matter what position you play. I mean, if you can set the ball, because there's going to be a time where if you're a middle, you're going to set the ball. It's going to happen. And if you don't look like an idiot doing it, that might be something good that a college coach takes and like, wow, like, he focuses on his whole game, something, little things like that. So yeah, for me, I would say setting.
Awesome. Josh, what about you?
Yeah, just to touch on the setting thing, I always tell everyone should be a good setter. And just a fun little volleyball nerd tidbit. The 2008 gold medal final in the Olympics where USA played Brazil, in set number 5 at 14-13, the middle for Team USA, Ryan Millar, sets the game-winning ball to Clay Stanley, and they win the gold medal. If he is unable to do that, we got 14-14, and you don't know.
Yeah.
Everyone needs to know what their job is, but everyone also needs to be able to do other jobs at least adequately enough to keep everything flowing. Now, for me, Blake was very kind in saying I'm a very technical player. It was not always like that. And for me, the number one thing I really wish I knew more coming into college was being a better technical, like float serve passer. When I got there, I just tried to use my hands a lot, and sometimes the ball is just moving too fast and you're unable to really get your hands on it. Especially I wasn't super strong. I got a lot stronger as the years went on, so I was able to take those harder balls. But at first, I just didn't really have a base for passing float serves. And our coach at the time, there's a lot of coaches Sacred Heart. I had this guy who's Hawaiian. His name was Kalani. And Hawaiians are very slow and very technical. And having him was the biggest blessing for me because he didn't allow me to practice with everyone my whole fall. The whole fall. He said, well, you can't pass, so you can't be in practice. You're going to go over to court number 1. We're going to hit float serves at you. And that's it. That's all you're going to do today. And then you're going to shag the balls and you're going to go lift. Have a nice day. I did that for 3 months. And for most of that time, he would just stand behind me and just make little tweaks. And it was the most annoying thing that has ever happened to me because sometimes the ball would go to target and he'd be like, that was bad. But why? Anyway, that was bad. I'm like, okay. And he'd tell me, you need to fix this. I want you to get your arms away from your body a little bit more. So I think it would have been, I always passed the ball fine. The ball went to where it was supposed to, especially in high school, but I didn't do it correctly. So I really wish I had that opportunity to learn a little bit more on doing those things the proper way. Because when I got to college, I had to start all over. And they were like, we don't care that the ball's going to target now because in crunch time, your technique is going to break down and you're not going to pass the ball to where we need it to go. So I spent an entire basically fall season just learning, I have to get my technique down or else I'll never, ever play. So.
Cool. So I'm getting into my last question here. I just put into the chat. If anybody on the call has any questions you guys want to ask Josh or Blake for after this question, go ahead and type them in and we'll get to them. So what advice do you guys have for our young guys on the call with aspirations of playing at college or even further, what would be your biggest piece of advice you would give them from now?
Blake, you go ahead first.
Sure.
I
Yeah.
gotta ponder mine.
I have a couple of just like bullet point things really. I would say, get active and, these are all things we've really already touched on basically. Get active in your recruiting earlier, be aggressive, putting film together, like Josh said, Google other highlight tapes. Look what, I'm sure if you Google so-and-so's highlight tape from this year, you can find it and you can see the types of plays that people want to see, things like that. When you're getting recruited, if that's a stage you get to, don't be afraid to ask coaches tough questions. It's something a lot of people are really scared to do. Something I wish I would have done more of. Frankly, coming into Sacred Heart, I didn't know how good Josh was. I was told I'm right there. Right then, as my freshman year, I was told I was right there with him. I was not right there with Josh's, freshman year. Maybe closer to my junior year, close the gap a little bit, even though Josh continued to get a lot better. I mean, I was just not there technically at all. And that's something, I wish I would have asked, more directly about. So, don't be afraid to ask the hard questions, some of these coaches. I think the biggest thing that made Sacred Heart, like our program, take a big step forward was our tone that we set for practices. Really, my sophomore year, Josh's junior year, we were so competitive. And I think, like I keep going back to this, we had that depth of team of good talent, but man, our practices were competitive. Our short, we were nasty. We would go at each other super hard. We're chirping. And I think that's super important, but it's also super important to incorporate what Josh is talking about, this community of volleyball that, that USA Volleyball really preaches. Stay after, just because you're the best player on the team, stay after and help people. It helps so, you don't understand what you're doing for them, in the moment. Like I was so lucky Josh, would stay after practice sometimes with me when I would ask just to help me on small things. I need to get better at this. He'd stay after me whenever I asked. So, that was a big deal. But yeah, just really staying competitive, study your film, of your own, other players, and just keep trying to play with the highest level people you can. In my opinion, that is one of the quickest ways to get good. Play with good people all the time. Like you'll learn, you'll learn some technique as you go, but if you're playing with good people, you will get better. So it's kind of my bullet points for you guys.
Yep. Goes back to the old saying, the game teaches the game. And I think that's some good stuff, especially the practice part. I know for my guys on the call, I've always tried to preach the importance of, we got to raise our level of practice. You want to be able to compete at that high level in tournaments. Well, it starts in practice, and it's not, okay, just our Monday practice, Friday, we're going to just do okay. You got to bring that level every day and that drive every day to want to be a good team and want to be a better player for your team. So again, you got to raise your level in practice if that's what if that's what your goals are, is to be successful as a team, be successful as a player. It starts in practice, and you're going to get out of it what you put into it. So Josh, go ahead. What do you have for our young people on the call? What about aspirations of playing at the next level or even professionally?
Yeah. To touch on the practice thing first, I have a couple things written down, but to touch on the practice thing first, I think Blake is even underselling it. If you walked into one of our practices, you would have thought that we all hated each other. There was yelling, there was cursing out of other players. I am a maniac with everyone. I ride guys so hard if they make mistakes. Not the kind of mistakes of, they shanked a pass. That's a mistake that every volleyball player in the world will make. But if you didn't cover a ball and you were on my side of the court, I let you know. I let you know a lot. You didn't run after a ball that got shanked by a different teammate, I let you know. And other guys on the court, you know what? They started to do it first. It was like, oh, man, Josh is being kind of mean. And then it turned into 2 guys getting on people and then 3 guys. And then we realized that I wasn't being mean. I'm trying to raise the level.
Yeah.
And once that caught on, it was unacceptable to do these things, to not cover, to not hustle. Mistakes happen, and you have to understand the difference. Shanking a pass, hitting the ball into the net or out of bounds, that happens. That's volleyball at every level. Missing a serve. But those little things, they have to be done every single time. If you do it 100 times in practice, if you run after a ball 100 times and you don't get it 100 times, the one time it happens in a game, you will get it. That's it. But if you don't do it 100 times in practice, you'll never get it.
Yep.
Now, touching on, I guess, some of the things I did write down. Obviously, you guys have all heard, hard work beats talent and talent doesn't work hard, right? So it's working hard and working smart, right? You could be running around being a crazy man, diving after everything, but you might not be working smart. You might not actually be making yourself any better. Deliberately working hard and making sure that you're focusing on the things you want to do. So if you come into a practice and say, hey, today's the day I'm working on my serve receive and I really want to hold my platform like a second longer just to kind of keep that angle there. You bet that every single pass you make, you better make that pass, hold it, and take a little evaluation. That's quality, right? That's the quality that you need to bring in. Getting 100 reps is not the same as getting 10 amazing reps. 10 reps where every single time you did exactly what you wanted to do, exactly what you put into your brain. That's real hard work. People like to mix it up. The guy running 1,000 sprints, that's hard work too. But the guy that's coming into practice every single day with a great attitude and something to work on, that's really hard too. I get paid to play it. And you bet that sometimes practice rolls around and I just want to sit and play Xbox. And I get paid to play. And it's still like, I don't want to do it because it's hard. It's hard to show up every single day and be consistent. Okay. That's number one. Number two would be focusing on the little things. The little things being shagging balls, hustling for water, being super positive with your teammates, or making sure you're holding your teammates accountable. These are the things that college coaches, professional coaches, USA coaches see. Because at the end of the day, if two guys are the same player, but one of them is an amazing person, amazing teammate, they're getting taken. Even if they're not as good. I'll give you that. Even if they're not as good. But if every single time one of their buddies falls down, he's there to pick them up. Every time coach says hustle, he's hustling. He's first. Whether he's the best player on the team or worst player on the team, that means something. Okay? Study the game. And not just study your own, not just study the guys that you're going to play against. Study players that are way outside your realm of ability. Look online, go on YouTube and type in your favorite professional player and watch their highlights. And watch them over and over and over again and slow them down and pause them. And watch what they're doing. It's scientifically proven that if we watch people that are better than us, we slowly start to pick up on things that we didn't think we could. Okay? Ask a lot of questions, like Blake said. And then I think the biggest one for me, I wish I really knew, is to not get discouraged. When you're getting recruited by these people, you're going to get told no. You're going to get told no a lot, and it sucks, right? But what these people think or may think of your volleyball ability and your how you can help them on the volleyball court doesn't mean anything about your character as a human being and who you are as a person. And I think it's super, super, super important to separate the two things. You as a volleyball player, you as a person. Because if they're the same and someone says you are not good at volleyball, you are going to automatically think I'm not a good person. People don't like me. That's not the case. They might not like one little thing, and that might be their problem. That's something I really dealt with really, really difficultly because I was getting told, we don't want you, and I thought these people hate me. And that's not the case. They just didn't want me for a volleyball player, and that's fine. And now that's fine. So I think it's a really important thing to learn as a young person. Who you are as a person is not who you are as a volleyball player. And what people say about your volleyball ability, because you will be judged. If you're trying to go play, you will be judged. College coaches will judge you. If you want to play pro, you bet your ass they're judging you. My position is one player per team. There's 12 guys on the team. It's just a backup for every position, basically. They're judging. And I'm not just playing against guys from out here. I have guys from France, Germany, Italy, Spain, every country in the world trying to play on the one position on the team. So you can bet they're going to judge you there. But what they say about my volleyball ability or your volleyball ability or anyone's doesn't make you a bad person. You got to separate the two. They're supposed to increase your life. They're supposed to make you better overall. But if one starts negatively weighing on the other, then you need to take a step back and realize that they're not the same. I think that's my biggest piece of advice is to not get discouraged and allow yourself to be a volleyball player and to be a great person. Hopefully be a great person and a great volleyball player together.
No, that's great. I think there was a lot of great stuff in both of the things you guys said. I just want to kind of recap on a couple of those is demand, the best from your teammates. You can't control a lot of things. The one thing you can't control is your effort. You can always control your effort level, how much you're going to put into it. So, it's like I've told my guys, talk to your teammates. It's difficult. It's not always easy to tell people things that when they're upset or what you're seeing and they're not going to like it. It's going to make you both better in the end. It's going to make the team better in the end. If you guys get used to communicating at that level, get used to talking to each other about the game, what you're seeing with the game, and you never know what you can say that might help your teammate. It might help them get better, fix a little thing. And, again, pay attention to the little things. Do all the little things. The big things will take care of themselves. So, and if you want to go to that next level, you want to play in college, you've got to bring it every day. Put the effort in. Have that love for the game. And, get your name out there early. So we have one question. Drew wants to know, what's your favorite pregame snack and why?
Okay, I'll go. Mine's a little different. I can get actually athletically induced hives if I eat too much before I play. It happened to me against Harvard in a scrimmage, and my whole face was just completely swollen. But yeah, I like something small, either, like some fruit or something like that. Or, I always love a little bit of Chipotle, but I have to also be really careful because I always want to eat all of my Chipotle when I get it. So I can only eat about half a bowl. But yeah, usually something nutritious though. Yeah.
Cool.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, when I was in college, we were eating Chipotle, and it's definitely not the best thing to be eating before a game. I'll tell you that much. It just sits in your stomach like a rock. And throughout my pro career now, I am big. I drink a lot of smoothies, so I usually make some sort of fruit smoothie. And I kind of will make it. I'll have about half, and then maybe after the second set, if it seems like we're going to be really pushing 5 sets, I'll drink just a little bit more just to kind of keep my glucose levels up, my glycogen going, so that I'm not getting too fatigued, right? It's so much adrenaline is pumping through you that sometimes in volleyball it doesn't feel like we're running or working so much. It's not like soccer or hockey where you're constantly churning, but there's so much attention to detail that you just end up just burning all this excess energy. So for me, you ask why, like I like stuff that's going to continue to keep me fueled throughout the game. So I have a smoothie. It's simple: berries, banana, peanut butter, protein, just to make sure that I'm fueled consistently throughout the game, right? A lot of us will eat something sugary at the beginning of the game. We're amazing. It's the greatest we've ever played in our life. And then once the sugar wears off, we go right back down, right? So I try to keep a consistent level, have something where I can kind of just pick on it throughout the game, banana or something simple.
Cool. So is there any other questions? I'll give you guys a minute or so, I guess, to type them in. If not, thank you guys for doing this. I think it was very helpful. I learned a lot. I think it was great to hear about what college looks like as far as, the daily routines and the schedule, what it takes to get there, the differences in the level of play going from club to college. And then, of course, Josh, from college to professional. Thanks for sharing your insight on the USA gym. Not a lot of people get to hear that and kind of get, insight into that team culture and what it takes to be in that gym every day. So I think that was good. And then, we talked about the stuff with the servers and attackers, which kind of got more technical on things. And, we discussed the importance of the weightlifting, all good things I think we can all take away from this call. Is there anything else you guys want to add?
No, I guess if anyone has any questions either down the line or anything, they can always reach out to you and you can reach out to me, or they can get in contact. for me, I always felt as a kid it was really hard to find people who were at the next level to bounce questions off of. And I want to let you know if you know you guys ever have. I know there's not a lot of you here, but if you guys do have any questions, you can always reach out to me. I will answer you. I promise, as long as it's appropriate. And always willing to help, always willing to help guide, and I really want to help grow the game as much as possible. So that's all. That's my 2 cents.
Yeah, same for my end. Obviously, over here, if you guys obviously need anything, reach out to me. And just thanks, Coach Ayers and Matt and Ryan for having us. We appreciate it.
Yeah, thanks, guys. It was fun.
Yeah, it was. So again, thank you guys. Thank you guys that are still on the call. Thanks for staying all the way through. We appreciate it. Hope you were able to take a lot of things away. Like I said, get active now. You're at home. You're not doing anything. You're not going to school. Get outside. Take care of your bodies. What kind of player do you want to be the next time you step on that court? There's things you guys can be doing. And again, you have questions about what you should be doing. You got a multitude of people you can ask. Me, again, you want to ask Josh questions, Blake questions, ask them. We'll get answers to you, okay? So we want to see the game grow to the best of its ability. We want you guys to be able to reach the highest level that you want to reach. But it takes a lot of time, a lot of dedication, a lot of effort. If you're willing to put it in, there's nothing you can't do. So I think these are both really great stories as far as Blake and his transition, and then Josh, going from a small D1 school to all the way to the USA Gym. These things are possible, but it takes hard work, it takes effort, it takes dedication. So thank you guys. We appreciate it, and hope everybody has a good night.
All right. Have a good one.
Right on. See ya.
Gosh, thanks, Blake.
Yeah. See you, Blake.
See you, man.
Bye, Blake.